Albert, can you say something?
I'm sorry?
Say something more.
Something?
Yeah, you can see the,
Oh yeah, that's good. That's good. It's a good volume.
this is the thing, yeah. A
Is
nice
this
little,
working? Hello, good evening. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
yeah, that's good.
Thank you.
Closer?
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes?
Yeah, but you're gonna have to like stay like that. That's the problem.
What about back here? Not. Okay, I'll stay here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for letting me honor my wife again this year. As many years ago, she asked for a reading for her birthday, and I'm very happy again to be able to do that. If you were here a few minutes ago, you were lucky enough to hear the opening of Scriabin's Second Piano Sonata, played by Robin Freund Epstein. That stopped playing after a while. I give a reading every year about this time, and usually I only read, well, I don't know what I usually do, but what I think to do is to read a little bit of what has been published in recent times, and then a little bit of new work. So the book that's just coming out now is one called Reasons to Resist. It's small. It's a long poem in the form of a motet. And by motet I mean something for several voices. In this case, the voice is that of a male and a female. The male is an innocent, greedy American, like most of us. The female is an Austrian architect, and they are talking on and on and on, within a chorus occasionally intervening. The structure then is motetish, musical, but there's no actual music to bother you with. It's published, by the way, by the wonderful Lunar Chandelier Collective, which was founded years ago by Kimberly Lyons, a Bard alumna, and is currently run by Billy Chernikov and Tomasz Panitz, also alumni. That's alumni, spelled I-A-E at the end. So I'll read just a little bit of that. It was written a couple of years ago. It's the most recent book, but not the most recent poem. Why was the water on fire? Thick brine of the Persian Gulf, supersaturate with salt, the water squeezed out, the oxygen spurts out like a girl on Friday, like a comet, catches fire, everything ignites. Don't be so rational and wrong. You don't know chemistry. I had to learn it for my degree, though I can't explain the taste of Pomerol or Bicaver. I sulked, she smirked, she smoked. The workmen did as little as they could, but still the wall was rising. A wall will always be there when you look. Slowly, didn't I tell you this always? Slowly, slowly, her voice soft in my skull. How does she get into the bones of me? Slowly, slowly, slow as owls, slow as souls. The most recently published book is one called Seaspel. Think gospel, like Seaspel. Also published by Lunar Chandelier Press. And I just want to read a few sections of this. This was actually written last year, and I think I read some parts of last year's reading, but these parts, I'll just read a few pages to give you a sense of this text. What we have here is essentially a kind of narrative poem. That's the interesting thing about Seaspel, is that it isn't a narrative poem, and yet there are things within it that suggest it. Narrative, like past tense. When you start using preterites, you begin to get caught up in the passage of time, and thus it seems like narration is happening. Well, here they are anyway. One night they strolled toward a quiet, mumbling commotion to the west. Philosophers playing golf in perfect darkness. Sometimes the ball could find the hole. It's something balls know how to do. But it's not about where I am, but who it thinks I am and what it says. Then we turn back. Glided down the hill, past the town hall and library. Wind came up at us from the sea. A rare east wind from Santiago, where his brother sleeps. I don't know if it's sleep or not. Noises in the silence, like the stomach makes, or the throats clearing themselves, but soft how the wind whips up and drowns the feeble questions out. Smell of sunshine, song of sand, the last oasis hidden in your clothes. I picked that section of Seaspel to read, just a little sequence of that poem, because in it there's a phrase, where his brother sleeps, which is in a way the genesis of a long poem which was the main work of this year, a poem called The Cup. And it is, for the first time in many, many years, it's a narrative poem, an actual narrative. It deals with someone who speaks in the first person, who is traveling across the northern part of Spain, the Santander corridor, and then out into Galicia, towards Compostela, the old ancient pilgrimage route. But he goes beyond Compostela, beyond Santiago de Compostela to the sea. Santiago, St. James, St. Jacob, the brother of Jesus, the Jesus of the West. Curiously, Bard College has an institute for the study of the brother, about that very St. James. This has nothing to do with the institute, and I don't think they know I'm talking about it. But so don't let them know. The notion that has always gotten to me is that when St. James came from Jerusalem all the way to the west, as in Christian legend he did, he brought with him something valuable, something that we came later to call the Grail, and that had been lost. So the poem, The Cup, is a kind of Grail narrative. I spent my whole graduate experience, yes, I went to graduate school years and years ago, and I spent 3 years studying the Grail legend and writing about it, and finally said, enough, and I left to write poetry. But the Grail has always haunted me in a way, and this finally, years and years later, I finally allowed myself to deal with it in a semi-narrative way. Anyway, that's the poem, The Cup. It imagines this character who says I, traveling across Spain and Galicia, coming to the sea west of Compostela, and he's following a young woman who's going there. And this is about one of their encounters, the section I will read now. Let me begin by reading this little face that says, I met James along the way. Let me help you carry it. It's not it, it's him, and you already do. The first encounter with a grail. Then this is going to be a little bit lengthy, several minutes reading. I'm playing with light here, trying to see. An old man appeared from time to time in the sanctuary to answer tourist questions. Not clear if he's a priest. He wears a surplice over a black cassock, but who knows, she thought. Asked him, is the cup we see the actual original, not a replica? Unsmiling, he spoke gently. Everything is a replica. This is what you call the original. But even the original is a replica. Do you understand? Do you mean that things are copies of some sort of Platonic form? Sorry to say, that man never thought to come here years later when he was reborn. Do you believe in reincarnation? She was surprised, but he had turned away to the next pilgrim. She told me all this about it later. She told me all about it later, when she consented to take tea with me at the Hotel St. James Rompies Mojados with wet feet. A curious name. Maybe he still is standing in the surf. Maybe we all are. Eyes blurred with tears. Get to the point, she said. And what are you doing? What are you after, coming all this way? You don't even believe in all this stuff. Are you just following me? And why would I do that? I had the wit to say. Then she was silent, and we both were sad. I felt guilty for having silenced us, so I told the truth. You knew the way. I followed you because you knew the way. Most of the pilgrims stopped at Compostela, but you went on, all these miles more, and I followed. I could tell you were someone who knew something, someone who knew something even if you didn't know you knew it. But I could see that you knew the way. Here, on this shambles of a chapel, old altar, old cup, old dust everywhere, and yet you knew the way. In the sea, for the water there is, knew the way to the sea, to the water where he stood, where he was washed, where he washed the cup too, at last, in water, older than anything he knew. You knew the way. You led me, and now you know. Thank you for being here before me, for me. In an old house by another sea, or are they all the same? I found a wooden cup that looked just like the one I think I saw, the Galician coast. Only mine was wood, and in the bowl of it, a small insect had come long ago to die, and in my hand I held its sepulchre. So that's a passage, several passages from The Cup. And The Cup was written this past summer and worked on. The Cup was written this past summer and worked on thereafter. Now I'll read a few hundred recent poems and call it a night. I'm always talking about how poems are words that follow other words. This poem is about something like that. It's called Words Come to Mind. And it lists a bunch of words that came to mind. Languid. You think a lagoon. Tepid. You think your aunt's milky tea. Half an inch of it left in the spode. Lukewarm. Pallid. You think of a ghost. If they exist, really. Peering through your door, or a friend's face, suddenly frightened by lightning, say, or something you said, a friend frightened by you. Vivid, you think of a parrot, squawking, green and yellow, perched on the phone lines, corner of Flatbush and Church in Brooklyn, still. Gravid, you think of a Stone Age woman, her bearskin kirtle plump around her middle. She rubs her belly. Sapid, you see a rabbi look up from his book, take a nibble of toast, smile, another nibble, smile because he's just read something that perfectly agrees with what he knows already and what he sees when he closes his eyes. This is an attempt to, I find myself often awake in the middle of the night. I suppose it's a poet disease. So I'm thinking of that. I am 300 years ago, writing by candlelight, a man in the dark. And what does he put down on the thick paper, so urgent it got him out of his tousled bed, long before the dubious accuracy of dawn? I can't read over my own shoulder, but if I go back to sleep, the words he writes may yet remember me. These are poems from October, by the way. Ruins. And they are ruins, after all. These marks that look like letters, trapped in what look like words. But they are runes, runes of pure space and silence, gaps and absences. When you hear a word, look through it. Look through the chinks of it, where the light shows through. the shapely light. You'll see an ancient shepherd boy and a girl beside him. They are playing with each other on a grassy hill in Galatia. His flute let fall. He holds her in his arms.
Keeps picking on you.
Why do you flee from me, O microphone? So I now turn to very recent poems. That's what I mostly like to read at readings, and I don't know why I don't just do that. But I somehow feel responsible to all those other things written weeks and weeks ago. But these are from these are November poems. There are only a few. I'm not going to read so terribly many. I remember being people I never was, vividly, places I have never seen. It is something to do with the head, the habit of knowing. The habit of knowing goes on even when there is nothing to be known. And I have walked with Kant along the bridges of his town, speaking of our ancestors, Celtic, while Kierkegaard limped beside us, mocking us a little for thinking that anyone has a past. Now, I'm going to read a longish, slow poem. In the 19th century, you can hear the beginnings of it with Beethoven and Berlioz and Schumann, but it really meets its climax with Liszt, who wrote 12 of them, and Richard Strauss, who was still alive when I was born. I was 14 when Strauss died. So he was a contemporary. Think of that. Anyway, I'm speaking of the tone poem. Things like What is Heard on the Mountain, or the Alpine Symphony, or Death and Transfiguration, or Also sprach Zarathustra. The tone poem. The tone poem was not narrative exactly. It tried to be a poem in music, whatever they meant by that. So this is a tone poem in which I'm trying to take that back from music and turn it in, let it be a poem. It's called Gan Eden. Gan Eden is the Hebrew for the Garden of Eden, and it so much sounds like our Gan Eden, Eden gone, that it's hard to avoid playing with that pun. So here's Gan Eden. It's very slow. If you sleep, I will forgive you. I sometimes sleep listening even to Mahler. Gan Eden. Who did you dream that night? Was I there when there were two of you? And then a third, chasing your bodies through the dense trees? Gan Eden, a garden in paradise. Pardes, from Persia, an orchard. What is the fruit that hangs from these branches? Can we eat them? Why even ask? How many trees are yours? How many have you climbed? How many vines and tendrils have grown up out of earth around you to bind you? How can you run so fast with all these leaves? Natives of Eden still, we never left the garden, did we, you? When I shaved today, I will see my oldest face come to life again in the swirling waters of the mirror, the pool you know too, the well in the garden. And here we are. Natives of this altar all around us. Churchless sacraments and bells in the sky. Eden gone, and we gone with it, to the dream, into the dream. How pale the sky is where we sleep. Run a finger down the spine. Old-fashioned telegram, the touch, rosary of our bones. Nodes, knots, needs, roses. Was it you who dreamed me that way last night? I never dream of people I know. So when I dreamt of you, it meant I do not know you. Yet you came and said your giddy prayers in me. Gone Eden, you said. Gone Eden, you said. What shall we do? We are children sitting on the curb outside the movie theater. Our feet in the little current runs down the midnight gutter, afraid to go home. Home is where Eden is most gone. No trees on the street, only one, a ginkgo, you know him, the messy nuts, the dizzy smell. The movie's over, the gates are closed. There are no buses. There is no town. And I watch your toenails twinkle in the wet. This is as far as a dream can get. The sound of snow falling 1,000 miles away, or next week in New Hampshire, that soft touch. How far did you think we could go? I waited for all of you to come to me. That seems foolish now, but it's my religion, to attend the arrival and be there when it comes. I don't like dreaming about people I know. It seems a waste of dream to fuss with daytime folk. Those goyim of sunlight. So either I sinned or you sent, unknown to me, to direct my sleep. Love is like that, isn't it? Always some new trick. Always someone saying, taste this if thou wouldst know me. You may wake now. This is called The Portal. Dorota sent me a postcard from Breslau of a strange Gotho-Romanesque portal in a Polish cathedral. Haunting image. Big steps with nobody on them. I was the man waiting in the portal. On the third stone step up, shielding from the rain. You were the hurrying figure in the rain hood, jumped up beside me and knocked on the door. I would never have thought of doing that. I have a strained relationship with wood. But the door opened, and we were now people inside. I only feel at ease with strangers. But what was this place, and how did you know it? You slipped the hood off. I was glad to see no one I knew. But what kind of place is this, I asked. Again. And this time you answered, this used to be a church. I think it now is an empty room. Stone and strong and safe. Nobody at all can come inside, just as we do. Welcome home. So, what entitles me to what I see in the mirror? That was the real mistake of Narcissus. The Greeks, as usual, got it wrong. He looked at his reflection and thought it was himself. He let himself imagine his real self was what he saw. Identity is fatality. Here's a little poem for Charlotte, very little poem. Come back to bed and tell me why I didn't hear the bird that woke you. You said it was blue. I heard a different color, and it held me tight. And this is a poem for Creighton Atkinson, who produced and directed and acted in 2 of my plays, and is here tonight. And I wrote this with a kind of gratitude for her work, since she is also a writer. It doesn't have a title other than For Creighton. It had to be your voice that woke me to speak. That's what magic does. Stage or otherwise, your voice in my mouth, your body, that everyday sacrament, open, gated mystery, moves to make me think. Thought is the shadow of actions. My mind is other people. See? True, or true enough to be Shakespeare with. Everything we ever have to say, you'll find in Shakespeare, of course. He said it, which shows what writing is not that, it shows that writing is not about saying anything. Writing is about answering a question your presence asks. You who are all of us, the whole world, population of Earth. The whole population of Earth alone on the stage. And as we have been told, there's nowhere that is not on stage. The actor tells the writer what to do, and you are both of them at once. How strange. snowflower, midnight sun. And once you raised your voice at table, and in that instant I learned what it was I meant to say. Couple more poems. There is a Stonehenge in the heart, hard facts of a mystery we still don't understand. It is ancient in us and always new. I think love is a shadow of those stones cast, and that those stones cast, and always changing as the sun moves. But who is the sun? This is a recognition, I guess. From my father, I learned to love music. From my mother, I learned to love silence. People say silence is golden, but I say that silence is a mine where gold is found. And with great quiet effort, it can be brought out, the light of common speech. And the last poem I'll read is for Charlotte, and it's called The Grotto, in response to a lovely gift she had given me. You gave me a geode shaped like a grotto, stands upright, tall, triangular gateway into the amethyst, severity inside. Color is the subtlest religion, guides the thought from point to point, sharp, insistent, daring the mind to go inside, to think itself among the 100 crystals, each pointing elsewhere. When we finally go in, we find elsewhere is the place where here really is. Thank you. Thank you very much for your applause, and thank you for being here. It's a great pleasure to read to you. There you are. Wonderful people. Thank you. Come next year, please.